Happy holidays, everybody, and welcome to Adapter Parish, episode 56, Miracle on 34th Street. As always, before we get started, let's talk about our next episode. It's the holidays, and Christmas is almost upon us, so that means that New Year's Eve is right around the corner. What better subject could there be for our New Year's episode than the classic tale of a bunch of people on a boat who are absolutely fine and don't die horribly than the Poseidon Adventure? We read Paul Gallico's 1969 novel, we watched the 1972 movie, the 2005 TV miniseries, and the 2006 theatrical remake. Again, everyone is fine. Just because it's a disaster classic doesn't mean that anyone dies horribly. That's in 2 weeks on Tuesday, December 31st, just in time for the new year. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com or tweet at us using the AdaptCast hashtag. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the show notes from this and all other episodes at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, episode 56, Miracle on 34th Street. Welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
And I'm Arielle Lipshaw.
Merry Christmas, sweetie.
Merry Crimbus.
Happy Crimbus, everyone.
Happy Crimbus, everyone. We are coming to you live, a little peek behind the curtain. It is a week before Thanksgiving.
It's the holidays.
It's holidays.
It's fine.
Happy holidays.
It's fine.
Happy
it's fine.
holidays.
We have a big thing that we have to schedule around, and we need to make sure we do things ahead of time.
He's sleeping.
He is thankfully sleeping right now. We'll see how long this takes us to record.
Yes.
But anyway, it's our second Christmas episode.
Yay.
No, it's our third Crimbus episode.
It's our third one.
Oh my God, we've been doing this for so long. So do you want to tell everyone what we are talking about for our third Crimbus episode?
We are talking about that magical tale of product placement. Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, hail corporate, indeed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, let's get into it right now. I just want to be upfront about something. Up until now, never had I ever seen any version of Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, really?
Never once. But I certainly know what the story is.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's inescapable.
The story of a little girl who tragically does not believe in Santa Claus.
Which is literally there is no worse tragedy in the world than a child who doesn't believe in Santa Claus.
And her eyes are opened through the miracle of Christmas.
You said something that I really liked, which is that like you felt like a lot of these versions equate not believing in Santa as a character flaw.
Yeah, yes, I did say that.
Like as adults?
Yeah, as adults. And I would just like to say, for the record, I have never believed in Santa Claus, and I turned out okay.
And for the record, I believed in Santa for a few years.
Yeah.
We did Hanukkah and Christmas in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And then around when I was 10, I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but basically as a 10-year-old, I was like, I'm having trouble reconciling the Jewish and Christian. But Jesus, but not Jesus. Mommy, daddy, I think I want to just do Hanukkah. Is that cool with you? And they were fine with it. So we just did Hanukkah from then on, and I was just Jewish. But I did do Christmas for like half my childhood. Like, to be clear, I legitimately remember being a tiny child and going down in the morning and seeing that the cookies were gone from the plate and that the milk was empty. Like, and thinking like, oh, holy fucking shit, Santa was here.
We did that with the Tooth Fairy in our house. I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast, but so I strongly believed in the Tooth Fairy because my dad...
That's what Jewish kids do.
Well, what my parents had me do is...
Bereft of Santa Claus.
We only had the Tooth Fairy. When I lost a tooth, my parents would have me call the Tooth Fairy on the phone to tell her that I had lost a tooth because I guess she's not omniscient. And I think what they did was...
Which of your aunts was it?
No, what they did was my dad changed his answering machine at work to say, "Hello, this is the Tooth Fairy." So I would just call his work number and get the Tooth Fairy's answering machine.
That's super cute. I haggled with my Tooth Fairy.
Did you?
Yeah, because I got a quarter whenever I would lose a tooth. But then I went over to a friend's house and he lost a tooth like at the sleepover. And so the Tooth Fairy came the next morning. He got $1.
Yeah, I think at one point he got $1.
So I left a note under my pillow asking the tooth fairy, like, why did I get 25 cents, but my friend got $1, and then my parents wrote me a note. Not the tooth fairy. There is a tooth fairy. I mean, we're all clear, right? There is a tooth fairy. But my parents wrote me a note apologizing, and from then on, I got $1 every time.
I also one time, one of my brothers lost a tooth, and I don't remember which brother it was. And for whatever reason, I knew my parents would forget because I'm the oldest, so I, of course, always had my money from the tooth fairy. But by the time you get to the second and third kid, it's not so important. So I went and left a quarter under his pillow, and it really freaked my parents out in the morning because they had both forgotten. I don't know why we're talking about the tooth fairy other than it was the only whimsy clearly in the childhood of Jewish children.
Well, first of all, you have a distinct lack of whimsy in your life.
Yes, as I sit here, like rocking a 7-week-old baby.
Yes,
who
as a
will
parent.
Not be brought up as a yes. This is our new segment.
As a parent, how did you react to Miracle on 34th Street and the power of wonder?
It did make me feel guilty, honestly. As I sit here, as I say, rocking this 7-week-old baby who absolutely will not be brought up to believe in Santa Claus, and learning about all the ways that it will make his life less magical.
Yes. He's going to have that weird thing where he's not only not going to be brought up believing in Santa Claus, he's going to be brought up to understand that he needs to be careful about telling people that he doesn't believe in Santa Claus, because I don't want to be the parents that get the knock at the door from like one of his little friends' parents saying, "Oh, hey, what's going on? It's been so long since we've seen you. By the way, your kid ruined Christmas forever, just so you know."
I mean, yeah.
I don't want that.
No, I don't want that. I don't want that for him.
But yeah, I don't remember when I stopped believing in Santa, but it was definitely between seeing that plate of cookies empty and telling my parents I want to just do Hanukkah from now on.
Yes.
So,
all right.
Yes.
Well, now that we've explored a little bit about our childhood traumas, should we get on with this movie, Miracle on 34th Street?
I want to be clear. Are you considering the fact that I did believe in Santa a childhood trauma?
I mean, I think it's really creepy that a man comes into your house at night when you're sleeping and takes your stuff.
Like, if I was listening to this right now, I would be wondering, wait a second, what does she fucking think of these movies? Did she enjoy any of them?
I liked the first one.
Well, there we go.
There we go.
So I think we should probably get started with this. Let's talk about this first movie.
All right. So
this was written and directed by George Seaton. The story was by Valentine Davies, who also wrote a book that came out at the same time, but like we didn't read it.
Well, it was like a novelization of his own screenplay.
Right, yeah. So like that's not this show. So we didn't do that. The only thing I want to talk about in regards to the making and release of this movie that I think is just fucking amazing, and I love it, is a couple things. Some of this I've told you beforehand. This is a Christmas movie. Let's be clear.
Yes.
When did this movie come out in theaters? What time of year in 1947?
May.
It came out in the summer because the head of the studio at 20th Century Fox apparently said, well, people don't go to the movies in the winter because it's cold. They go to the movies in the summer when it's warm and they leave the house. So, we got to release our Santa movie in the summer. And then someone in the back goes, but it's about Santa. What are we going to do about that? And he goes, I've got another idea. We won't tell them it's about Santa. This is going to be our secret Santa movie. And so they cut a trailer for this we just watched beforehand.
It's very weird. Rex Harrison's in it.
I'm 100% linking to it. It is amazing. It's an amazing trailer. It is a 5-minute short film about the head of the studio not knowing how to sell Miracle on 34th Street, a movie he has never seen, going out onto the back lot in 1947 or 46 or whatever it was. No, it was 47, I guess. And finding all the contract players who are all dead-eyed talking to him about how great the Miracle on 34th Street is, and he's saying, hey, Rex Harrison, hey,
Ann Baxter,
how do I sell this movie? And all of them are going like, it's amazing, it's great, I loved it, I laughed, I cried, it's better than what I assume Cats will be, which, by the way, when you're listening to this, you can go see that in theaters. I am going to be in the front row. But anyway, so it's a 5-minute short film. Let me ask you this. Is there one aspect of this movie that you noticed being completely gone from this trailer?
Santa.
You would never know that it is a Christmas movie at all.
I mean, you would never know anything about the plot at all.
Except for that a lady and a guy kiss in the last scene.
Yeah, they do spoil the ending.
Which is weird.
It's very weird.
Trailers are weird.
It's very strange.
They really used to be weird. So that's my favorite thing about the making of this movie. It was a secret Santa movie, and no one knew it was about Christmas until they went to go see it, and now it is like a classic Christmas movie, and it is shown rightfully at Christmas.
Yes.
Which I think is appropriate.
Yes, correct.
I have one other thing about this.
Yeah?
I want to talk about the Catholic Legion of Decency. So the Catholic Legion of Decency.
You sprung this on me. I don't know anything about the Catholic Legion of Decency, but I assume it's not good.
I mean, it's not bad. They grade movies, obviously, have graded movies for a long time. Full disclosure, I actually don't know when this is from, but I know that it exists. They gave this movie a letter rating.
Uh-huh.
What do you think the Catholic Legion of Decency gave one of the most famous Christmas movies of all time?
I mean, there is nothing about Jesus in it.
No, that's true.
So I assume they thought it was like overly secular.
Okay. No, that wasn't it.
Was that not it?
Well, I mean, I will tell you this. They didn't get an A. They gave it a B.
Okay, they gave it a B.
Yes.
I mean, Santa is violent.
Nope, that's not why.
Okay.
Also...
I know why.
Well,
I know
no, hang
why.
on.
No, I know why.
Well,
I know why.
Before you say why, I want to say what the one quote is from their decision.
Yes.
It was, quote, morally objectionable in part.
Yes.
Because
her parents are divorced.
Exactly.
Yay!
100% why the Catholic Legion of Decency gave this movie a B.
There it is.
I fucking love this. This is great. So this movie was delightful.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Now, you wanted to describe the plot. I would love to hear the plot of Miracle on 34th Street,
All
a movie
right.
which we both enjoyed a great deal.
Yes. There is a little girl named Susan who's played by young Natalie Wood, who is very good and very cute in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Tragic ending to her life, possibly murdered. Christopher Walken may be the only person who knows what really happened that night.
What kind of fucking plot synopsis is this?
I'm just saying.
How does Christopher Walken being complicit in the murder,
the
potential
boat.
murder
He
of
was
Natalie
on
Wood?
the boat that night.
How is that important to the plot of Miracle on 34th
Walken
Street?
knows what happened to Natalie Wood. I'm just saying.
I am going to take this back from you if you keep behaving this way. Do you want to try this again?
Okay.
Hey, sweetie, can you tell everybody about the plot to Miracle on 34th Street?
There's a little girl named Susan.
Okay.
Whose mother works for Macy's. Her mother is in charge of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Her mother is very important and a cool, strong, takes no bullshit businesswoman.
Yes.
She also has an adult man friend who lives across the hallway.
They call that a neighbor.
Yes, but the little girl goes and hangs out in his apartment unsupervised, which is creepy.
It was 1947. Can I just... Okay, quick sidebar. The creepiness thing, there are so many things in all of these versions that, of course, now in 2019, we can't look at as not being creepy, but we just have to put that aside.
Yeah, I mean...
There's lots of creepy things, but it's not creepy in context.
Yes, there's just a lot of unrelated adult men being alone with little girls.
Yes.
In all versions of this movie.
Yes.
Including the Mara Wilson version.
But the thing that makes it okay is that the characters in the fiction are genuinely decent and kind characters.
This is true.
And
except for maybe Santa in some of them.
No, not Santa in any of... Well, hang on. We'll get to it. So I'm so sorry. She's got a neighbor who is her gentleman friend. And he uses her to cook up a romance with her divorced mother. Mm-hmm.
Her mother meets a gentleman who she hires as the Macy's Santa Claus, and it turns out he may or may not actually be the real Santa Claus.
Well, no, hang on.
Yes.
He is Santa.
Her mother hires Santa to play Santa.
Yes.
There is some confusion because, of course, obviously a person believing that he's Santa must be crazy. So he's put on trial for his sanity, and the judge at the end rules that Santa does exist and he is the real Santa.
This is what happens.
And young Susan begins believing in Santa and discovers the true meaning of Christmas.
And well, no, I wouldn't even say she believes the true meaning of Christmas. Like, the thing that I like about it is it's about a sense of wonder. Like,
yes, and she gets a family at the end.
Right. The great tragedy is that her mother is divorced and that she has no sense of wonder.
She has no sense of wonder. Her mother has brought her up to be very practical and adult.
Yes. Do you want to kind of run through this movie a little bit? Because I've got some notes about this.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the movie, what happens is we open in media res at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Incorrect.
Okay.
We open earlier than that. My first note is from
Okay.
even earlier.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay, because the opening of the movie was him knocking on the window of that little shop.
Oh, right.
Like with the guy arranging all the reindeer in the little diorama.
Yep.
And Santa's knocking on the window, and the guy's like, "What the fuck? I can't hear you." And Santa's like, because of course you can't hear someone through glass. So like this immediately I was like against this movie, because what you're telling me, 20th Century Fox in 1947, is that Santa Claus can run an entire operation that brings presents to every single child in the world who celebrates Christmas, but he doesn't understand that someone can't hear you through glass.
Well, we're gonna get into what Santa can and can't do as we go through this. I think.
I'm just saying, the Santa that's presented to us is never like as smart as I assume Santa has to be.
Yeah.
But then he immediately goes to the Macy's parade, which actually, it happens at Thanksgiving, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Santa's at the end of the Thanksgiving parade.
Yes, this is a Thanksgiving movie.
It's appropriate for us recording it right now.
Yes.
We're very sorry to everyone. Maybe we should have waited a year and aired this on Thanksgiving.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, Media Res, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Please continue.
He discovers that the Santa in the parade is drunk, and he is scandalized.
Mm-hmm.
And he reports this to Mrs. Walker, who is running the parade, and she fires the drunk Santa and hires him, Santa, as Santa.
Yep.
And so
she's in a bind.
He Santas all over the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
That's the grossest way of saying that.
We meet little Susan and her adult man friend, who are upstairs in their $6 million apartment watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade from their giant bay window overlooking Central Park West. I'm just saying. And we find out that he is a lawyer and he has a crush on her mother, who works for Macy's.
Yes.
So Santa goes to work in Macy's as Santa, as the mall Santa,
Mm-hmm.
and all the children come to see him. And the problem that he creates is that if you can buy a toy cheaper in some other place, or if Macy's is sold out, he will tell you where to go get it, thus creating business for other stores, but goodwill for the people of New York, including Thelma Ritter in an amazing cameo as a child's mother, thus adding this episode of this podcast to the great number of episodes in which we mention All About Eve.
Yes. I want to talk about Macy's for a second.
Yes.
I want to, because this to me is like the department store shaped elephant in the room.
Okay.
So this is something I had to have a big old think about for a while, because we watched 4 versions of this movie, and I had to try to understand why it was okay that this movie is basically an advertisement for Macy's. Right? And also Gimbel's, weirdly, which is also a real store.
It was.
It was at the time.
Macy's still exists.
Yes. Did you know, though, that like the Macy's sold Macy's in like before 1900? So the idea that like the head of Macy's is, what is it, R.H. Macy? William H. Macy is like not the head of Macy's anymore.
I didn't know that.
So that's fiction.
Yeah.
But I had to try to understand what this was, because the cynical thought I've had about this movie for years, having never seen it, is that fuck this movie. It's an advertisement for Macy's, and also I'm Jewish, so
yeah,
like,
an advertisement for Macy's and for Santa.
like fuck all this. Like, it's all stupid. Also, like, Santa, like this is, I don't want to be clear, this is all in the context of my cynicism. Like, so I'm going to go back into character. So, and Santa is also like, he's Santa as we know him, the jolly guy with the red suit. Like, that's a creation of Coca-Cola. So like, that's not what Santa is. That's not what Santa ever was, but that's what this movie says Santa is, right?
Yeah, I just think it's funny that you're just a Jew going on a rant about the commercialization of Christmas.
But that's my point. That's my total point. So like, okay, he's Coca-Cola's Santa, so this movie is like a backdoor advertisement for Coca-Cola and a front door advertisement for like Macy's, and also with this giant subtext all the time that Santa is real, and if you're Jewish, you just need to step outside the room because you're not welcome at this meeting.
Put the Christ back in Christmas.
Well, which is weird. Jesus doesn't show up in any way.
Jesus is not in this movie.
Until 1994.
No, 1994 is the most religious one that there is.
Which is weird. But anyway, so that was my view going in. Coming out the other side of it, I will say, I think I finally feel much better about Miracle on 34th Street.
Good.
And that's for 2 reasons. One, I thought the movie was about Santa, and it is, but it is about, like we've joked about it, but it is about a child's sense of wonder, which, if you want to like press one of the 10 buttons that make me cry. It's like, let's talk about a child's sense of wonder.
Yeah.
It happens to be Santa. And here's the deal. If you've got a bunch of people who celebrate Christmas and they want to tell a story about a child's sense of wonder, and the thing they want to talk about is whether a child believes in Santa, I have no beef with that whatsoever. I think it is a perfect example of a child's sense of wonder, and you can tell a great story around that.
Yeah.
The other part, though, is the whole like Macy's advertisement thing. And the thing that I love about watching it now, if I'd watched this when I was younger, I think I would have had a different feeling about it. But now in 2019, I have the benefit of having seen a different movie that came out a few years ago, and that's the Lego Movie.
Okay.
That movie is two things. It is a blatant advertisement for a corporate product, and also a beautiful movie about the creativity and imagination of children that is better than it has any right to be. Would you agree with that?
The Lego Movie's great.
I think the Lego Movie is the spiritual successor to Miracle on 34th Street. Like, if you ask the people at Macy's, they would say, oh, this is an amazing advertisement for our product, for our store. But, like, no one watching it remembers that part. Everyone watching it who loves it remembers the story it tells about the sense of wonder in children.
Yes.
Which is beautiful and pure and perfect, and this movie does it great. And now I am totally okay with it because of the Lego Movie.
Great. Well,
thus ends my TED Talk. This wasn't even really a TED Talk. This was more of like a YouTube like movie criticism video.
That was pretty much what that was.
Yeah, but I'm not going to make a video for it.
Fantastic. Well, right, because we have a podcast and not a YouTube channel, turns out.
I'm sorry. So anyway, he goes to Macy's.
He goes to Macy's.
I'm so sorry.
And explains to everyone that his name
Christopher Walken was complicit in the potential murder of Natalie Wood.
Just to be clear, I didn't say he was complicit. I said he knows what happened that night.
I just want to be clear, too. There is such a thing as accessory after the fact.
Just saying. He explains to everyone that he is the real Santa and his name is Kris Kringle. And they say, well, this is a deluded old man. It turns out he lives in an old folks' home down in Long Island somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he begins to teach young Susan about the power and wonder of imagination and fun and whimsy.
Mm-hmm.
And she also, this is a scene that I think happens in every version of the movie, but it's always like a different thing that he knows how to do that fills her with wonder and belief that he is the real Santa.
Well, it like opens the door for wonder and belief. This is always like the step in for her.
She's watching, and this woman comes up with this child to come see Santa and says to Santa, you don't have to talk to her. She doesn't speak English, but she wanted to see you. She is a Dutch refugee, from the war, which is very sad. And then Santa begins to speak to her with her in perfect Dutch.
We assume, like in the context of the fiction, it's perfect Dutch.
Which is funny because like it's clearly an American child who has learned Dutch like syllable by syllable because she is speaking Dutch with a strong American accent, which even I can recognize. But in every version, it's a different thing. In this version, it's Dutch. We'll talk about what it is in other versions as we get to it. But I really like the plot line that not only is this child a child that happens to speak a different language, but like she really needed Santa to be able to talk to her in her language because she's been through some shit. And I feel like we don't get that with the other versions. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense.
Yeah. Not only is it a miracle that he can speak Dutch, but he knows what the kid needs.
Like the thing I like about this one is that it is like a beautiful moment. It does great things for like Susan's storyline, but also it's not like a weird condescending heartstring pulling kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of pure in the way it tells it. It's not problematic in any way.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Also, I want to just jump in with one thing. I am also convinced at this point in my life that even Dutch people don't know how to speak perfect Dutch. So just to be totally clear.
Fair enough.
So anyway, he's there. Can I say one thing about him getting hired?
Yeah.
Just a super, super quick thing about his employment card.
Mm-hmm.
Which we see his like the card he fills out. And his name for the movie is not Santa Claus. His name is
Kris Kringle.
Okay. Who does he put as his next of kin on the card?
He lists all of the reindeer.
Where the fuck is Mrs. Claus?
There's no Mrs. Claus.
Where's his goddamn wife?
Mrs. Claus is not even mentioned, not even once.
I just know that she's upset about this entire thing.
I mean, why doesn't he list any of the elves?
You did what? You went where? Where have you been?
It's Christmas.
I don't understand. You have responsibilities, Christopher. She calls him Christopher.
Christopher.
Yes.
Kringle.
Yeah.
And so Susan reports back to her mother, I saw that it was miraculous. Like, he spoke Dutch to this little girl. I think he might really be Santa Claus. And her mother's response is, well, I speak French, which I thought was really funny.
No, I fucking love her mother. I love her.
Yeah, it's Maureen O'Hara. She's great.
She's great. Doris is great.
I mean, for 1947, like, this is an amazing, strong female character. She's unapologetically divorced. She's a single mother. She has a very important job at Macy's in which she clearly reports directly to Mr. Macy himself. And we see her in a room with like all of her colleagues, and she is the only woman in the room at any given time, other than like we maybe see like a secretary or two in the background. Like, this is a strong female character, and I don't think she gets enough credit for like being a fucking badass.
Well, no, because I think the bad thing, like the thing that's unfortunate is that like the way the movie presents it is that even though she is so strong and so accomplished, not believing in Santa Claus and not allowing her daughter to believe in Santa Claus
is a character flaw.
Exactly. It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. And also, she has to have a love story with the young lawyer. I did write, I don't know which character I'm referring to in my notes. We watched this like a week or two ago. I wrote, look at that magnificent butt chin. Which character was that? Was that one of the lawyers?
God, I don't even remember.
Anyway, they're a little concerned that Santa seems to think that he's Santa.
Yes.
And they decide, her colleague's name is Mr. Shellhammer. It's Mr. Shellhammer in every version because Shellhammer is the magnificent last name.
This is actually, like, of every version, I think this is the one where I remember him the least.
Yeah.
Like, I liked him more in every other version.
So anyway, Mrs. Walker and her colleague, Mr. Shellhammer, decide that they need to have Santa examined by the store psychologist, which is a thing that stores have.
Now, I want to do something right now. I want to do a dramatic, like, I would call it a hypothetical reenactment of what I think a store psychologist would say to Kris Kringle upon his first, like, quote-unquote examination.
Okay.
Are you okay with this?
Sure.
Okay. So I want you to be, can you be Kris Kringle? And I will be
Dr. Ho, ho.
Okay, great.
Ho.
You've got your man. You've got your motivation.
Ho.
I love it. Okay, Santa, shut the fuck up. So, I am the doctor and you are Santa. Hello, sir. How are you?
I am fine.
Or would you say you're jolly?
Quite.
I have one question that I would like to start with, sir.
Please do.
Are you Santa Claus?
Yes.
You are crazy. And scene. That is the most important question. It is is absolutely, and I was really vindicated later because that is like the prosecution's one question in the trial of Santa Claus. But it's the one question the psychologist never asks in the store. So anyway, it just bothered me.
So this guy is examining him, and it all goes well, and it sounds like he's taken a lot of mental examinations before because people continue to think he's crazy because he thinks he's Santa Claus, and everything's fine, but the psychologist doesn't believe in Santa Claus. That's really the issue at hand. He doesn't believe in Santa Claus.
Which, as we know, is a character flaw.
Yes, so he really kind of makes it his mission to unmask this guy, and he continues to antagonize him whenever he gets the opportunity, and it all culminates in Santa striking this man with his cane and injuring him and being arrested by the police.
Yes.
And he is taken to Bellevue.
Is it Bellevue in the original one?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it may be. He does not have a bathrobe with Bellevue embroidered on it in this version, but
which he does have in 1994.
Yes, but it is Bellevue, and he is therefore put on trial for his sanity because they're just going to commit him, and it turns into a hearing because the across the way neighbor, who's a lawyer, decides to act as his attorney in court.
And this is where the movie changes, because the movie's really like two stories. Like, one, it's like a delightful movie about a guy who is actually Santa Claus, playing Santa Claus in a Macy's, and he interacts with all the people there, and he interacts with like a nice young guy named Alfred who also plays Santa, who maybe has some mental problems.
Yeah.
And like he interacts with a young girl whose mom is a really super badass and whose only character flaw is that she doesn't fucking believe in Santa Claus, which is bullshit. It's like a really nice story, and then suddenly the entire story changes, and now it's the trial of Santa Claus.
Yes, which if you want to have this trial, we have no affiliation with this YouTube channel, but there's a channel that we love called Legal Eagle, and he picks apart like courtroom scenes in TV and movies, and he does this one, and it's awesome. So I would definitely recommend. We'll link to it in the show notes. Definitely recommend giving that a watch. It's like 25 minutes long.
Wholeheartedly. I have like one note here that I just want to say. I can't even remember what it's in reference to, but I think it has to do with like because the whole thing is Macy like loves what this guy is doing, and he becomes like a really good like beacon of hope for the store.
Yeah, he's like the poster boy now for Macy's because it's this like strategy of goodwill that we send people to other stores because the important thing, of course, is the children.
Yeah. And my only note is just like all caps, why are they doing so much to accommodate this crazy man?
Yeah.
Like they never really sell it that well why they're accommodating his craziness so much.
That's right.
Other than the fact that like we as the audience know he's actually Santa. Again, he's Santa. This movie is unambiguous about this.
Yes, he is Santa.
You could tell a version of this story where there is ambiguity about whether he's Santa, but honestly, the fact that I'm even saying that shows that I am not the person who should tell this story. Because like maybe this story doesn't work at all if there's ambiguity about this.
Yeah, because the moral of the story is not like, well, Santa is like the power of love within us all, and he lives in the hearts and minds.
Santa was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, he lives in the hearts and minds of all people of goodwill. Like, no, the moral of the story is this guy is literally Santa Claus from the North Pole.
Yes. That is the moral.
And he gives presents to all the children of the world.
Here's another note that I have.
All of them every Christmas Eve.
Every single one of them. Here's another note that I have that I think is just as important about like the nature of Santa Claus and the nature of imagination. At one point in the movie, someone asked for a triple strength martini.
Yeah, I wrote that down. How do you do that? It's just more gin.
Like, I don't understand how you make a triple strength martini.
You cannot.
It's just like a shitload of gin. It's just all the gin in the bottle.
More gin. Well, no, it's that someone secretly makes someone else's martini triple strength to get her drunk so she'll agree to what he wants her to do, which is terribly problematic. But a triple strength martini, it would be very obvious because it would just be a juice glass full of gin.
Which I'm sure in 1947 was like a cocktail you could get.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I will just ask, without revealing anything, in regards to men's relationship with women, was that the most problematic thing that you saw in any of the 4 versions that we watched?
No.
Okay, we'll get to that. So then we get to the trial, and I feel like the trial can be boiled down to one thing.
Uh-huh.
Do you mind if I give this a try?
No.
Emotional coercion and laziness.
Yeah.
That is how Santa wins this trial. So a couple things. It's not a jury trial. It's just a hearing. The judge is the only one who has to oversee it and has to rule on it. By the way, I'm asking this more as a question than I am saying it as a statement. I was under the impression that the judge only says case dismissed if the case is dismissed and he or she is not making a ruling.
We need to send this question to our legal correspondent.
And the reason I ask it is because in almost every single one of these versions, the thing that happens at the end of the hearing is that the judge rules that he is Santa.
Yes.
And then
gleefully shouts,
case dismissed, and bangs his gavel.
He does do that.
And I don't understand that because it's basically like if I was a clerk in a store taking money for something, I would say, that's $20, please. Thank you for your $20. And it's free. But that's not how anything works. That's not how anything works.
Well, that is a question that I think we have to pose to our legal correspondent. I do have a question later in the show for our medical correspondent.
Yes.
So that we can hear from you folks.
Both members of your family.
I know. One is my dad, one is my brother.
Which is funny because my mom's a social worker, and I feel like this would be a good episode to ask a social worker about she's a social worker from New York City. I feel like asking someone about like Bellevue in the 40s, the 40s to the 80s would be a good person to ask.
Yeah,
about
your
that.
mom worked at the Awakenings Hospital.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So we get to this trial, but when I say emotional coercion and laziness is how they win, I genuinely mean that. Like, the reason that the judge rules that there is a Santa and that he is Santa is because all of the other adults in the room don't want to don't want to be in a position to have to tell their children and grandchildren that A, there is not a Santa, and B, that is not him. And the other reason is laziness. Like, there are people who, like the post office.
Yeah.
That's the crux of this entire movie.
It's Grandpa Joe.
I know. Yeah. You were excited to see.
I really was excited.
Was my reveal for that good?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
How did I reveal it to you?
You were like, just picture him as an old man lying in bed.
With like 3 other old people
Yeah.
and a little boy with a chocolate bar.
Yes.
But anyway, the reason for people that have, I mean, I feel like this is like got to be well known for people obviously that have seen it and people that haven't seen it, is that the way that they win at the end is that the defense lawyer of the boyfriend from across the hall says, well, what we need is a government agency that can say that he is Santa, someone with authority. The U.S. Postal Service is a government agency with authority. And he, like, for whatever reason, these couple guys at the post office say, we're getting all these letters for Santa. Hey, isn't Santa that guy who's on trial down at the courthouse?
Let's deliver these letters.
Let's deliver these letters. I gotta go be Grandpa Joe in another movie in like 20 years. That's how they get their proof for the reason that he's Santa. But like, that's just the guys at the Postal Service being lazy.
Yeah.
That's how they win.
Well, and also like political selfishness, which is that the judge is up for re-election and does not want to tell the children of New York that there's no Santa.
Again, emotional coercion.
There it is.
I think that's emotional coercion.
There it is.
That's how they. And I just want to say, I don't have a problem with that. I just think it's interesting that that's what it is. And it's also important to note that now because later other people try different things when they're adapting this story.
Yeah.
But I do think, and I want to hear your opinion on this, I do think that this is the best way of telling this version of the story. If you're going to tell a version of the story that involves the trial of Santa Claus, just have all of the grown-ups in the room look kind of dumb and just rule that he's Santa. Not because it's true, which it fucking is, but because they don't want to tell their grandkids that there's no Santa.
Yes, and there's lots of things with like the prosecutor and his son and the judge and his grandchildren, and they don't want to admit there's no Santa.
Right.
Which apparently there is Santa because he's Santa.
I've interrupted you so many times. I'm so sorry.
That's
Would you
okay.
like to finish up this plot synopsis?
So they deliver all the mail, and the judge rules that he's Santa, and the little girl gets what she wanted for Christmas, which is a house that Santa gives her, and her mother is going to marry the guy from across the hall.
Yes.
The end.
It's all very nice, and they kiss.
Yes.
The mom and new daddy kiss.
Yes.
And that is the last scene of the trailer
The
for the movie Miracle on
end.
34th Street from 20th Century
The
Fox.
end.
So having gone through all that, I don't want to spend a ton more time on it because bottom line, like we both really enjoyed this movie. I got emotional at this movie. Like
Shocker.
As I said, like talk about like the power of imagination in a child and like sense of wonder. Like that does it for me. What did you think about some of the people in this movie? I feel like in particular, like what did you think about like the mom, the boyfriend, the girl, and Santa?
Yeah, those are the main characters. Well, as I said before, I thought Natalie Wood was really fantastic in this movie. She sort of led a tradition of excellent child actors really carrying the film, other than really the second half where she's not in it very much.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, Maureen O'Hara, fantastic, badass killer businesswoman. Really like this interpretation of the character. What did you think of Santa?
Well, I was going to say, what did you think of John Payne as Fred Gailey? 2 names I bet you didn't remember at all.
Nope, neither one. Totally
Totally
unmemorable.
If I asked you, was the boyfriend named John Payne played by Fred Gailey or vice versa?
Yes, that is his name.
He totally unmemorable. He is like the least important main character of this. And I say that to say that I thought John Payne did a great job.
He's fine.
I liked him. That's the only important thing. The important thing is that you like Fred, and then you can move on from there.
Yes.
But yes, as you say, who's the most important character?
Santa.
And that was Edmund Gwenn as Kris Kringle. What'd you think of Edmund Gwenn?
He is very Santa-like.
Super Santa-like.
And I mean, managed to make the scenes with the little girl like as not creepy as possible, considering it was 1947 and people weren't as cynical as they are now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the movie, let me say this. The movie holds up, I think, pretty well. I will say this. The movie holds up better than the 1994 version.
Yeah, which we'll get to.
And we'll explain the reasons why I say that, but the movie holds up pretty well.
I agree. Like, I think Edmund Gwenn is good. Like, I think he's good.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing in his performance that isn't good. I have, like, little issues here and there with the writing, but at the end of the day, none of that is important because this is a movie that stands in direct opposition to cynicism, which I'm sure was not the studio's intention.
No.
I bet 20th Century Fox or Macy's didn't give a shit about like the artistic intention of this movie.
No.
But it really feels like the people who made it said, no, we're going to make a movie about genuine wonder And yes, so what that it's about Macy's? It doesn't matter that it's about Macy's. The only thing that Macy's has to do with it is that Macy's is on 34th Street, and that's where the miracle happens.
Just keep that in mind. Macy's is on 34th Street. That's why it's the miracle on 34th Street. Just keep that in your mind as we move forward with the different versions.
Right. But here's the deal. Good movie.
Yes.
Good movie, super fun movie. Edmund Gwen's Real Good Santa.
So in 1955,
Mm-hmm.
less than 10 years later, this script was readapted as an episode of a television show called the 20th Century Fox Hour. And because it was a television show with the sort of length of production that entails and not an entire movie, they were able to get the most ridiculous cast to recreate an abridged version of the movie Miracle on 34th Street. And we were able to watch this thing.
This is like the fun side of the studio system where you have everybody under contract, is that if the studio tells people to do something, they'll just go do it.
Yeah, they have to do it.
And so like 20th Century Fox says, we're going to have a TV show where we're going to do hour-long adaptations of our most famous movies, and we're going to make our biggest actors and contract players be in it, and they don't get to say no.
Yes.
Like, you've got an Oscar winner in the main role of this hour-long TV version of Miracle on 34th Street.
Correct.
Like-
That is Teresa Wright.
As Doris Walker.
As Doris Walker.
From Mrs. Miniver and The Best Years of Our Lives.
Mhm.
Like, these are big movies.
Oh, Santa is Scarlett O'Hara's dad from Gone with the Wind.
Thomas Mitchell was in Stagecoach, Gone with the Wind. It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. My God.
Yes.
Can I talk about Susan really quick?
Yeah.
Sandy Desher. She's fine. She's nothing special.
She's okay.
She is the little girl from Them, which is a fantastic 50s horror movie about giant bugs and ants that eat a whole bunch of people.
Cool.
She gets the titular line in the movie. It's great. She's the little girl screaming Them. It's wonderful. She's very good. And there's one more person that I want to bring up the cast, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
That is Hans Conried as Mr. Shellhammer. I think he was my favorite version of Shellhammer. This guy, you'll know his voice. He is Captain Hook from Disney's Peter Pan.
It's amazing.
And Thorin Oakenshield from the animated Hobbit, which we have talked about on this show before.
Yep.
He's so fucking good in this.
It's really good.
His voice is incredible. His voice is like one half of my childhood, and the other half of my childhood is someone who will show up later.
Yeah.
But that's, sorry, I just want to talk about the people who are in it. These are actual movie stars.
Yeah. By God movie stars.
Yep.
And the script is the same.
Yes.
Except for a couple of scenes that they added, I think, for comedy. Like there's a gag about like Santa not wanting to eat venison, which is really really stretching it, that like why would they have venison in New York City for Thanksgiving dinner? But I guess he's got a friend who hunts and brought him some venison, and Santa doesn't want to eat deer.
Because of the reindeers, you see.
I have eaten reindeer. It's very good.
Mhm.
I ate reindeer when I was in Sweden. It was good. Am I a monster?
Cool story.
Yeah. It was real good. I recommend
Cool
it.
story.
I have eaten Blitzen.
Yeah. That's great. I'm really God damn it. Sense of wonder, everyone. I'm just saying, like a sense of wonder. Not everyone who hosts this show has an amazing sense of wonder.
Shut up.
You shut up. A couple things about this movie. Yeah, you're right. Like, it just is Miracle on 34th Street. Like, I don't think we need to talk about it for very long. I do have a nominee for Sir not appearing in this film.
Please.
Well, Santa is introduced in this movie as being the Santa who has been hired by Macy's.
Yes.
Drunk Santa, not appearing
Nowhere to
in
be
this
found.
film.
Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found.
They removed that plot line. Well, I have a note that was something that you said that I wrote down. Let's talk about the tone of this movie.
Sure,
because
yes.
that is the thing I think that is a little bit different, because at one point you said, oh my God, it just became a horror movie. Do you want
Yes.
to talk about what happens?
Well, I want to talk about my note, which is all caps. Santa is a murderer.
Yeah.
So, like, in the original, the thing that gets him in trouble is that while he is, like, in the office of the, the store psychologist, which apparently is a thing, he whacks him on the head with his cane, with his umbrella or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's in the private, and so there's a lot of hearsay going around and everything like that. In this version, the psychiatrist is giving a talk. He's giving a TED talk to a bunch of children about how silly it is to believe in Santa, and the real Santa is like behind him being funny for the kids, and he walks up behind him, and with literally, I
Murder in his eyes.
I can't describe it. There is a sense of joyful glee as he takes his cane and like hits this guy over the head and knocks him unconscious. There is like a glint of murder in his eyes that is there the entire time.
And we looked at each other and we went, Santa just killed a man.
Like horrified.
Yeah.
Horrified. I understand they were going for something cute. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
At even a little.
Well, the whole plot of the psychologist giving the TED talk about how there's no Santa to a bunch of children at the progressive school, like in lieu of the Christmas pageant, we're given to understand.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how there's no Santa. Oh, it's weird. There's some weird shit in this movie, but it was fine. Like it's an hour. It's available on YouTube.
And I would just say, because of the cast, 100% worth watching.
Yeah, totally.
Like these are movie stars, wall-to-wall movie stars. They did. I had so few notes about this one because it is just the original movie.
Yeah, same.
With a couple of weird additions in that Santa is a crazy murderer person. But also, I feel like there's a thing you have to do when you're doing the Miracle on 34th Street, which is you've got one of three things that you can do with your Santa. One, have him have a real beard.
Mm-hmm.
Two, have him have a fake beard that looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
And three, have him have a fake beard that looks like a fake beard. This one did the third thing, because there's always that scene where he's talking to little Susan and she says, "You're not really Santa. I know that your whiskers are fake." And he goes, "Well, fake, go ahead and pull on them." And she pulls on them and they don't come off. And he goes, "Oh," and she goes, "Ah, ha, 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 ha," and laughs like a little child because of course they're real.
Yes.
In this one, this is the one where it's like crazy how far he moves his head forward
Yeah,
where
and
she
she
pulls
just sort
them.
of like gently touches them, like, "Oh, yep, nope, they're real for sure. Absolutely cannot pull those whiskers off. Not even a thing."
It's weird in fiction to have a character say your beard is fake and another character say no, it's not. And as an audience, you go, yes, it fucking is. But that's like the least you can say about this one. Santa is a goddamn murderer, and there's a lot of movie stars in this version. It is worth watching. It is on YouTube. Everyone enjoy.
The end.
So then we move on to 1959 for another adaptation that we did not watch, but it exists. So you had the most scared look on your face.
Oh God, where are my notes?
No, we didn't watch that one.
We
It
didn't watch
exists. We couldn't watch it in like I looked a little bit and I couldn't really find it. But yeah, we didn't. Oh, one thing before we move on, I completely forgot about this. We were talking about how like the 1955 one is full of movie stars.
Mm-hmm.
It was also directed by like a fucking movie director. It was directed by Robert Stevenson.
Oh yeah.
Who did the Jane Eyre we talked about.
Mary Poppins.
Right? Bedknobs and broomsticks. Like I love how he had this career of doing like great studio movies in the 40s and 50s and then just did only Disney from the 60s on.
You know what? It's great work if you can get it.
Totally. But anyway, this was a TV movie. And then we get to 1973 when there was another TV movie that was made. A couple things about it, just to get it out of the way. This was directed by Fielder Cook. This was written by Jeb Rosebrook. It exists. I had never heard of it. We didn't know we were going to watch it for the show until I found that the entire thing is on YouTube.
Yes, it is.
And I said to you, hey, do you want to give this one a try? Let's do this one.
And then we sat down and watched the whole thing.
Were you ready for this one?
I was blown away.
I just want to say right now, this is my favorite version that we watched. Is it the best version?
Absolutely not.
No.
It's bug fuck nuts.
Clearly not the best version, but it is my favorite one, and we'll get into why. So we get this movie from 1973. I want to give some people some idea of who's in the movie. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got a weird. It's so weird to come from the 1955 one where every single person is a movie star to this one where every single person is like someone.
Yeah.
But not because they're a movie star.
Like a TV star.
No, but
a TV bit player, perhaps.
Well, no, hang on. So you've got Jane Alexander as Karen Walker.
Yeah.
She's got a different name every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's Doris in the original. She's Karen in this one. She's Dory in the 1994 one.
Right.
But we've got Karen Walker. Jane Alexander's like in movies. She was in Glory and Cider House Rules and Kramer versus Kramer and Terminator Salvation. Like
she's a person.
She's a working actor who has been in a lot of shit. You have David Hartman as Bill Schaffner, the lawyer from across the hall. He was the first host of Good Morning America and hosted it from 1975 to 1987.
Great.
So like not a movie star and also kind of not an actor.
Not an actor.
But that made him so endearing in this one. He felt like just a normal dude.
Yeah.
I kind of liked him, even though he's like clearly the weakest of anyone playing this character.
Yeah.
We have Suzanne Davidson as Susan Walker. She is a child actor in a TV movie, which, much like The Bad Seed that we just did, like she's not really in anything else.
Yeah.
Which she was fine. She was fine?
She's fine.
She's fine.
I literally can't picture her in my mind.
Yeah, we've got Jim Backus as this movie's Shellhammer. Jim Backus is great. He's Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island. Oh, and also he's the dad in Rebel Without a Cause.
There it is.
Maybe more important, but he's in Gilligan's Island. Tom Bosley as the judge, the dad from Happy Days.
A lot of dads.
Like lots of dads in this. And then Roddy McDowell as the like psychologist in the store.
So weird.
It's so weird. But then finally, as Kris Kringle, we have Sebastian Cabot, who has been in many, many things. But I'm going to name 2 things that he was in. And just like Hans Conried in the 1955 one, I want people to think of this voice in their head if you had a childhood that was anything like ours. He was Bagheera in The Jungle Book from Disney, and more importantly, he was the narrator in The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
There it is.
He did Winnie the Pooh narration for years. That is the voice of Santa Claus in this movie. He is my favorite Kris Kringle of any version that we watched. Can I please tell you something funny about his performance?
Yes.
This is a big, jolly man with a beard. He's had a beard for years. He shaved it for this movie because they couldn't make it turn white convincingly, so he's wearing a fake beard.
That is an amazing piece of Hollywood trivia.
Yeah. So those are the people in this movie. What are some of your notes for this weird, super enjoyable, but also really uneven and kind of bad movie?
It has an incredible theme tune entitled "I Believe in Miracles."
Oh man, well it's just called Miracles.
Oh, is it? Okay, I wrote down "I Believe in Miracles."
That is the refrain.
I think that's the refrain. I don't actually remember this, but I wrote down Drunk Santa amazing. Do you have anything about the Drunk Santa?
He was just a very overt drunk Santa.
Yeah.
Like they did the drunk Santa and he was crazy.
Yeah. The nuttiest scene I think in this movie for me was the scene where Mom comes home from the Macy's parade, where she is an executive of Macy's,
Yes.
to find her daughter in the apartment of the man who lives across the hall.
And she's like, "Didn't I see you on Good Morning America?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Not yet."
And she's watching the parade. The little girl's watching the parade from his window. And the man who she has not met before ever and is just coming across the hall to retrieve her daughter says to her, "Oh, can I get you something to drink?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah, vodka on the rocks, please." It's 2:00 in the afternoon.
She's had a hard fucking
She's
day.
had a hard day. But like, who just like waltzes into someone else's apartment and orders a vodka on the rocks in the middle of the afternoon?
Karen fucking Walker does.
Karen fucking Walker's got some balls. And then, as they're standing there chatting, Celeste shows up at the door.
Celeste is my favorite character in the movie.
Who is Celeste?
She's nobody.
Celeste walks in with some bags of groceries. Celeste, we learn, is an anesthesiologist from uptown.
Tell me about her character, though.
She hates Karen Walker immediately.
Yeah.
Because I guess she's the man's sort of girlfriend, maybe friend with benefits.
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
No, you have. What I'm saying is you have no idea.
I have no idea.
The movie gives you nothing.
Nothing. And she says to Karen something to the effect of, "Yes, we're friends. And sometimes I help him out." And she's got his bags of groceries and like...
We're friends, but it carries certain benefits.
Yeah, and the camera cuts to the guy just looking incredibly uncomfortable, and that is the last we see of Celeste. Celeste has 5 minutes in this movie. I do not know why. I guess just to imply that this man has had sex before with other women.
Like Bill fucks is what we're like given to understand.
Apparently that was important information for us to have.
In 1973.
In 1973.
But yeah, Celeste is like weird and sultry and interesting and gone after this scene.
Yes. So for this version, Celeste is my nominee for the female character is a little underwritten. I want to know more about Celeste.
I really do.
I want a whole movie about Celeste, the anesthesiologist. Also, as someone who recently had an epidural, anesthesiologists are high on my list of people who I like.
Yep.
They're great. The one we had was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
She was from South Africa.
Yeah.
So this movie follows kind of the main beats of the original movie.
Totally.
Wouldn't you say?
I do, yeah.
And so they have the same thing where the little girl who doesn't speak English comes to Santa, and Santa is able to communicate with her in her language. And Susan observes this and realizes that this is kind of miraculous and he must be the real Santa Claus.
Right. So we started with Santa speaks Dutch.
To a refugee child from the war.
Right. So it like tugs at the heartstrings, and it is like weird.
Yeah.
It is certainly unusual.
Yes. So in this version, the little girl comes to Santa and Santa speaks in Spanish to her. And I said, this is less miraculous because it's not very hard in New York City to find someone who knows how to speak Spanish. It's not exactly a niche language. And then when Susan goes to her mother to report this and how miraculous it is, her mother says the exact same thing. Well, it's not very miraculous. We live in New York City. Everyone speaks Spanish, which doesn't really serve to make the mother seem like she's shooting Susan down that much because she's absolutely correct. We live in New York City. Everyone speaks Spanish.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There are also a number of moments in this movie where it really seemed like everyone was going to burst out into song. And I wrote down at one point, it is a musical. Oh, because Santa sings to Susan?
Yeah, well, you mentioned at the beginning that there's a song called Miracles. You didn't mention the only other song in the movie,
yes,
which is Open Your Eyes and Dream, sung by Santa to Susan.
It's not good.
No, it's not bad.
It's not good.
It's interesting in that it's really weird.
It is really weird.
And he's doing the like talk singing thing.
Yeah.
He's not like, it's not like he's not bursting out into song. It's not like a musical number.
Yeah, he's not like singing and dancing and tap dancing, And
she's just in bed and he's sitting on her bed, which is fine. It's fine.
It's not fine. It's not great.
Because in context, he is Santa Claus.
Okay.
In the context of this story, it is fine.
Yeah.
You need to stop being such a cynic in 2019, and you need to be okay with the fact that there is whimsy and a wonder in the world.
Okay.
I had to do this in order to enjoy these movies.
I'm sorry. Well, so there's a plot point in the original that we did not mention, which is that part of the reason that Santa wants the job at Macy's to pay him money is that the medical director of the old folks home where he lives, which I just remembered he's the one with the magnificent butt chin.
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
He is a up-and-coming young doctor, and he really believes in Santa, and he loves him and enjoys the fact that they live together. Oh, we also need to talk about how Santa's sharing twin beds with the neighbor from across the hall in every version.
Yeah, there's a sitcom like kind of thing going on over there.
Yeah.
Santa, my roommate.
Yeah. But Santa's friend, the doctor, needs an x-ray machine, and he really would like to be able to have enough money to provide him an x-ray machine for his medical practice, I guess. So in this version, they do include that plot point.
Yeah.
But it is not an x-ray machine. I guess
a machine for like taking x-rays.
Right. I guess the thought being that in 1973, an x-ray machine is not as miraculous. Can you please tell me what the item is that Santa is trying to earn money to get for his medical doctor friend?
I believe it's an emphysema machine.
It is an emphysema machine.
Which is a machine I can only assume is designed to give people emphysema.
So I Googled emphysema machine.
And Google was like, what are you doing?
Google was like, what are you doing? There's nothing called an emphysema machine. And the closest I could imagine was maybe it's what they used to call a CPAP.
But it's for like a lot of people.
But he does say he needs one machine to save a lot of lives, and a CPAP is like a very individual personal medical device that you just have like for yourself. So I'm unclear. If anyone, including our medical correspondent, Matthew Lipshaw, would like would like to let us know what an emphysema machine might be, I think we would both appreciate it.
In 1973.
What else would you like to talk about? That is the end of my notes. I really just wrote down when something was completely crazy, because it did, as I said before, it did follow the beats of the original pretty closely.
I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about acting and choices.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a wildly inconsistent movie, to be clear. Like, this movie has some of my favorite performances of any of the 4 versions that we watched. Sebastian Cabot is my favorite Kris Kringle from any of them.
Okay.
I think he more than any of them is the one that I look at it and go, that's Santa. I buy that man as Santa. I'm like pointing wildly here in the room.
This is correct.
His voice is amazing. He just is Santa in every single way. And this isn't to say that the other ones weren't good. He's the one for me that like kind of exceeded expectations in every single way. There are other incredibly good performances in this movie. There also are the worst performances of any actor in any of the 4 versions that we watched. Because it's a 1973 TV movie. They shot it in New York, and there are people in this that I can only assume are not actors.
Oh, well, would they go to the old folks' home? And I think it's just a real old folks' home.
With
and
real old folks?
They gave some of the old folks lines to read, and they just kind of mumble their way through them.
But it's also one of the sweetest scenes in the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
I think there's just such a really nice thing about, and I think a lot of independent movies do this, especially where you have like non-actors in actor roles.
Yeah.
And they bring like, they're like bringing like equal parts like uncomfortability and yet also authenticity to something. That's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is when he's going around to all of the other old folks saying, just making sure this is what I'm getting you for Christmas, and this is what you want for Christmas, and this is what you want for Christmas. It's adorable. And they're not a single one of them delivers their lines well or naturally, and it just endears me to them so much.
It's great.
It is a wildly inconsistent movie. But the other thing that I love about it is the idea of making choices. So if you're going to adapt something, you have the option of making your own choices. And you could say, well, no, I love the original and I want to do something that's super, super faithful to the original. So I'm really not going to make any choices beyond that. I'm not going to add anything or change anything. This is one where they didn't do that, which is also a valid choice, and they add so much flavor, and it is like quintessentially a 1970s version of this story. Like, this is a movie that exists in 1970s New York. This is the same New York. I like to imagine that this is like the same Christmas season that the taking of Pelham 123 is happening, like underneath the city.
Right. That's right.
Like, it's an amazing just kind of time capsule of New York at that time, and it's a movie that gets weird. There are people in this movie who give weird, unique performances that are nothing like the original, and scenes are played in interesting ways, and lines are delivered in interesting ways, and the music is crazy and really arch at times, and it's just a weird, fun movie that I kind of loved a lot.
It's available on YouTube.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It is not the best one, but it is my favorite one. That's where I'm at on 1973's TV movie of The Miracle on 34th Street.
So in 1994,
21 years later,
we have this film that completes the Mara Wilson trilogy.
Yeah.
You have Mrs. Doubtfire, you have Matilda, and you have Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes. It also completes the John Hughes Christmas in New York with a Child duology of Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, and then 2 years later, Miracle on 34th Street.
Sidebar, the cathedral that they go in at the end of this movie, I swear is the same cathedral that she goes into at the end of Home Alone 2. I'm sure it is the same. They might even have reused some shots from same. Anyway, Mara Wilson, as an adult, has done like a lot of speaking and writing about what it was like to be a child with a job and to feel that sense of responsibility at 6 years old, that like if you fuck up, people will lose money and jobs, and like to have that resting on your shoulders, and what a weird experience that was. So I don't want to like harp on this, because there is genuinely a human being in the world who is our age that this happened to, but she fucking carries this movie. She is the only good thing in this entire movie. And there is no reason to watch this except for Mara Wilson's performance. The end.
Disagree.
Okay.
I think Richard Attenborough is delightful.
That's fine.
And nothing else is.
Yes.
Like, I'm so glad you started with Mara Wilson, because this was, I think I said this to you when we were watching it, but like, this is my big conflict with this movie. On the one hand, I really, really want to be friends with Mara Wilson.
In real life.
Because she's fucking kicks ass.
Even just Twitter friends like Mara, like hit us up.
She's great. On the other hand, I don't have much to say about this movie that's nice.
Except for her performance.
Yes.
And she, to be fair, was not responsible for any other element of this movie other than her own performance because she was 6 years old.
Right. But I want to back up for a second because
Yes.
if we're talking about this movie and we're talking about it in the context of its time, I want to just say, like, weirdly, this movie represents the closest relationship I ever had to Miracle on 34th Street because the thing that has that name on it that I have watched up until now more than anything was the trailer for this version of Miracle on 34th Street.
What VHS tape was it part of?
No, literally, I was about to say a ton of them.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how many it was on because it was on so many of them.
That's really funny.
And there are images from this movie, like the image of Mara Wilson pulling on Richard Attenborough's beard and him going, oh, like that's... I've seen that scene. I've seen that shot a million times.
Yeah.
This, to me, I always assumed was like a really wonderful, magical Christmas movie that I never saw because it came out at a time where I already decided that it was kind of over Christmas, so I never saw it. Like I was 9 when Home Alone 2 Lost in New York came out.
Yeah.
So like great Christmas movie.
That's
I
a great
totally
movie.
saw it. I was 11 when this one came out, a year after I told my parents I don't want to do Christmas anymore, and because I was basically Susan from this movie.
Right.
So I never saw it, and you never saw it either.
I don't think I ever saw it.
I was
Yeah.
always convinced, by the way, that like Richard Attenborough got this movie because he was in the public consciousness by being in Jurassic Park the year before.
That's probably true. No, for me, this movie falls into the same category as Father of the Bride Part 2.
Okay.
Which is that I expected it to be at worst inoffensive and at best delightful.
Yeah, sure.
And I hated it.
Yeah, right? Same.
Which is the exact same as I felt about Father of the Bride 2. It's a really poor movie. It is nonsensical. The tone is very weird and very off. It's just derivative. They're trying to inject all of these quote unquote modern elements into it to be clear that like this is not 1947, it's 1994. We're so modern. But by doing that, it ages worse than the 1947 version.
100%. That was literally one of the reviews I was reading from the original, as someone acknowledged, like, this movie is not going to be a classic in 50 years the way the original is.
No.
Which was, I think, was super on point 25 years later.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I took 2 pages of notes.
I have a lot.
So I want to just establish something right off the bat.
Yep, we're just going through our notes right now.
Right, just going through our notes. The store is not Macy's. Apparently Macy's wanted nothing to do with it. But it's very confusing because the store is Kohl's. C-O-L-E-S.
Kohl's. I've shopped at Kohl's before. I have lots of coupons. Wait, C-O-L-E-S?
C-O-L-E-S.
Okay.
Which is confusing in a podcast because there is a store called Kohl's, K-O-H-L-S.
Yeah.
So for the purposes of this podcast, so that no one is confused, can we please just call it Macy's?
Sure. I'm going to keep calling it Kohl's.
Okay.
Just because
But
that's
it's
what
not
it is.
Kohl's, the store that actually exists, Kohl's with a K. It's Kohl's with a C, like Nat King Cole.
Right.
There it is.
Right. So Kohl's is this. This is something that I like. I was so happy that I had my little like personal mini revelation about the Lego movie and the original.
Yeah.
Which is that if you change it from Macy's to Kohl's, it weirdly robs it of some kind of magic and some kind of like charm that it has, which is that the original is a really pure movie that exists despite the fact that it is an actual advertisement for an actual store. But in this one, it's a story about whimsy that isn't about anything real. It would be like turning the Lego movie to the toy block movie.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question, just sort of logistically.
Yes.
Where is the Macy's flagship store physically located?
Oh, no, it's in Manhattan. It's in New York City.
Yeah, where?
On a street. I don't know which one.
What street?
Maybe 34th Street?
It is located on 34th Street. Where is Kohl's?
I guess also 34th
That's
Street.
also 34th Street.
I actually was thinking about this. It's weird to me that the movie was never called Miracle in Manhattan.
Yeah, it could just be called that.
Like, it's more alliterative and
Yeah.
it's fine.
We would get mixed up with the movie Made in Manhattan with Jennifer Lopez.
Yes, in 1947. That was certainly something they were
Apparently.
thinking about.
Well, in this version, Kohl's is apparently also on 34th Street, and Shoppers Express, the evil store, is across the street.
Wait a second. Hold the fucking phone. What do you mean the evil store?
There's the evil store, whose logo looks very much like the late lamented Circuit City, but it's called Shoppers Express, and it's across the street.
This movie has bad guys in it. Mustache twirling bad guys.
Dressed as Russians.
Okay. I have a question for you.
Yes.
What did we identify as the antagonist in the original movie?
Just like your cynical spirit.
Right. Like
the real world.
The antagonist of the movie is losing your sense of whimsy.
Yes, that's right.
No one is bad.
No.
Even like the antagonist, like the district attorney or prosecutor, whatever it is. Again, the reason that they win their case is through laziness and emotional coercion.
Correct.
Like they don't want to say that he's not Santa because they have it in them to like beat him for some reason. They're not bad people. Like none of them are bad people.
Yeah.
But in this one, John Hughes, a man who made lots of pretty wonderful movies, wrote in the most ridiculous bad guy I have ever seen.
Well, it's like there's multiple bad guys,
yes.
though. And also the theme tune for the bad guys is exactly the same as the Wet Bandits from Home Alone 2.
Yeah, this movie, I remember when the movie started and the music started playing, I was like, okay, is this John Williams or Alan Silvestri or someone who's trying to sound like them?
It's that one.
It was that one. It was someone trying to sound like them.
Well,
the whole thing is like a total knockoff. Let me say that again. This whole thing is a tonal knockoff of Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
Yes. I just want to take it back for 1 second.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Because we're going through chronologically. I just wanted to mention an example of what I was talking about. Like, it's so modern. Look how modern we're being. It's modern because it's 1994. The 1947 version, Mrs. Walker comes home from the parade. Her daughter Susan has left her a little note that says, "Hi, Mommy, I'm across the hall with our neighbor. Come and get me when you get home."
Mm-hmm.
Little written note. Fine. In this one, she comes home to an empty apartment with one like carefully staged Raggedy Ann doll just like lying on the floor in front of the door as if like they had a dog who left a dog toy there.
To be clear that this is an apartment where a child
lives who has one toy, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
She has the camera set up and she has left her a
Wait
video
a second.
message.
Are we supposed to get our kid more than one toy?
Apparently.
Shit.
He really only has one toy at the moment, but he's only 7 weeks old.
I assumed it was always just one toy, and when they outgrow their toy, they get a new toy and you get rid of the old one.
We'll talk about this later. He does have one toy. He has a little ball that he can hold. It's very cute. He can't do much more than that.
I'm so sorry I interrupted, but fatherhood is new.
Yeah.
You'll all understand when you have children.
Later, yeah. And little Mara Wilson has left her a video message saying, "Mommy, I'm across the hall with our neighbor. Come get me when you get home." There is nothing else in the movie about her being like interested in technology or interested in making videos or cameras or anything like that. It's literally just something from the filmmakers who are just delighted with themselves about how modern they're being, making a modern version of this modern movie.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
So she goes across the hallway to her neighbor who is, I can't remember, is it Dermot Mulroney or Dylan McDermott?
It's Dylan McDermott.
Where are you getting this Dylan from?
It was on iTunes. They just spelled it wrong.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah, Dylan McDermott from The Practice is across the hallway, and he's the lawyer across the room. We'll get to him in a second, but I want to backtrack for a second because I want to talk about the scene with the drunk Santa.
I wrote down, why is Santa pantsless?
This scene is an embarrassment.
It's terrible.
It is an embarrassment to everyone involved in this movie.
And to Santa.
Yeah, this is like modern kind of Jack and Jill Adam Sandler level terrible.
Yeah.
Where you've got the drunk Santa, there's all these pratfalls and his pants falls down and he exposes his butt crack and all these kids in the crowd, like one after another, are like, "Oh my God." And it's played
Santa's butt.
It's played for laughs. And
to be clear, it's not Richard Attenborough's butt, it's the drunk Santa's butt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then he gets in the sleigh and the whole sleigh falls off the back of the float.
And he dies.
And he should have died. It's a ridiculous bit of physical comedy that is beneath every single person involved in this movie.
Except I did laugh when he fell down.
I know that's your thing. It's weird. It's awful and embarrassing, and I hate it. I felt that way about so many scenes in this movie where it's just like, they had to make this. They had to build the sets and hire the actors and make the costumes, and poor Elizabeth Perkins had to, like, walk into the set and deliver the terrible lines that she had to deliver. I felt bad for her.
They literally, the evil store, the little elves outside are dressed as Cossacks. It literally is like the evil Russians. They're giving away something called gum guns for free because Macy's is doing this fun thing where they're sending people to other stores as a gesture of goodwill.
Right? And the whole fucking bullshit thing about this movie that clearly makes me more mad than anything else is that in the original movie, it's about two real stores, Macy's and Gimbel's.
Yeah.
And you as an audience member, what's your, like, to me, the big takeaway from the presence of those two stores and the CEOs of the companies is that they run stores, they like money, they also have kids, and they're just silly people.
They're just people at heart.
That's all it is.
Brought together by the magic of Santa.
The point of the movie is never root for Macy's. That's never the point of the movie. The point of the movie is root for whimsy.
Right.
In this one, though, they want you to root for Kohl's because they set up two different things. One, they set up that Kohl's is in financially dire straits and just got, like, bought out by a British firm or something like that.
Some nonsense.
There's so much pressure on them to do well this holiday season, or they might close, which is like, stores close sometimes. That's a thing, but that's not really what this story was ever about. And also, there's an evil store across the street that wants to see them close. So you as an audience...
And also, the entire future of the store immediately becomes dependent from the very first scene is immediately dependent on this Santa being a good Santa.
The world goes fucking nuts for this Santa. Everything. There's literally a line later where someone says, I'm paraphrasing, the fate of the entire company rests on this man.
Yes.
And my question is fucking why?
Why? What, like, literally, she's hired him off the street to be in a parade, and we have the spy from Shoppers Express watching the parade on the phone with evil Joss Ackland going, they got this great Santa. They got this great Santa. They're going to do real well. That we got to figure out something to do to get ahead of them because they got this great Santa. Like,
why didn't you get me a great Santa? Why? How did we miss this?
That's exactly what happens.
It's terrible.
Why is Joss Ackland always so evil?
Well, he's really good at it. I don't know. In Hunt for Red October, he's like goofy. He's like the Russian ambassador.
But it is the Russians. It's the Russian store. I wrote down, it's the Russians.
Yeah. And then we have, I literally didn't write down their character names because it doesn't matter, but you've got James Remar and Jane Leaves.
Being just...
They're Boris and Natasha. They are Boris and Natasha.
It's really funny.
And they're, like, constantly, like, this is the thing that I wanted. So here's the way it's actually set up in the movie, which is the Shoppers Express wants to undermine Kohl's because, of course, evil, good, good versus evil. That's
how it works.
That's how corporate America works. It's good versus evil.
Clearly.
They want to undermine this Santa, so they manufacture a situation where they hire the drunk. Oh, do you want to talk about Santa Bar?
Yeah, like at one point, the drunk Santa that got fired is in a bar talking to James Remar about how Kohl's did him wrong, and James Remar is
Boris
scheming.
in this scene.
Boris is scheming about how he's going to use drunk Santa to get back at Kohl's for being better at being a store, I guess. But like the camera just pans across all of these Santas drinking at the bar, and I was like, I actually love, like, you have biker bars, and like some bars are like chef bars where all the chefs go late at night, and like some bars are this and some bars are that. Apparently there's a Santa bar where all the Santas go to get drunk at night.
I want to see a movie just about that.
Well, there is a movie called Bad Santa, which I think kind of is about that.
I don't know. I've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, never saw it. I heard it was good.
Yeah.
But anyway, they hire drunk Santa to antagonize real Santa. Oh, he like antagonizes him in Kohl's in front of all the children?
Yeah. And like, where is security? Where is security when this drunk man is like yelling at Santa and accusing him of being a pedophile? Like, that's a hard accusation to make against Santa. Like, that's a scary accusation.
Now, some of you who haven't seen this movie, and even some of you who have seen this movie and kind of forgot, you might be asking, wait a second. So you're saying in this children's movie from 1994, one character accuses Santa with a child on his lap of being a pedophile.
To be fair, he accuses him like afterwards. Remember when he like goes down the hall?
Doesn't he accuse him of liking the kitties, like in
No,
front of the kitties?
Not in front of the kitties. He does it when they're walking down the street, like at
okay.
nighttime.
Well, either way,
It doesn't really matter.
It still happens.
Yeah.
He still accuses him of being a pedophile, and that's the thing that makes Santa Richard Attenborough
Strike him.
Strike him a little bit, but he plays it up as more, and suddenly a crowd of people appears around him.
Like, oh no, Santa, how could you?
And Boris and Natasha, because of course Santa's now the most famous person in the world,
Right.
especially New York. And Boris and Natasha jump in and go, Santa, how could you? Wait a minute. No, what do? They jump in and they go, wait a minute, you're the Santa from Kohl's. How could you? And everyone starts shaking their head. No, we do not approve of this.
We don't like Santa anymore.
And he gets arrested, and it's a whole thing. So anyway,
Let's take it back.
Okay, no, I'm so sorry. Yes, I know you have more notes. I do have a thing to say about this. I will hold off until we get back to it.
Fantastic. Okay, I just have a couple of things to say. This is real nitpicky stuff, but it just goes to show like how little thought and preparation was put into this film.
Yeah.
So Mara Wilson and her mom and Dylan McDermott from across the hall sit down for a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat.
Yep.
And it is insane. Because just like clearly they didn't give the prop director either a budget or actually have a prop director, because they have the saddest, most awful looking Thanksgiving dinner. They have like 3 slices of dry turkey. This is what I wrote down. Who eats boiled carrots and steamed broccoli for their Thanksgiving meal? Like, unless it is actually a character note about how joyless the mom is, that her Thanksgiving dinner is truly awful. But there's like some joke about how it's catered. And then they have this like giant basket of rolls for 3 people that nobody touches. I just hate it. It's like, oh, we need some dinner. Let's get this generic food. It's just an example of how little thought went into setting up the environment of this movie. That the Thanksgiving dinner is ridiculously bad.
I don't know. I would give a slightly different perspective on it, which is
Okay.
that they did put some thought into it, but the thought they were giving didn't have anything to do with the characters.
Yeah.
Because the dinner looks beautiful, and that's the thing that makes it look bad. It looks like the dinner in a catalog.
Right.
But it doesn't look like the kind of dinner real people would ever have.
Right.
Which means that in no way does this tell us anything about the characters who are in the room.
Right.
And that's my big problem
Right.
with it.
So it's kind of the opposite problem.
But it's still... It doesn't work. That's the most important thing, and I think we agree on that.
Yeah, totally. The other thing I wanted to just mention that was so much more clear in this version than in any other version because they harped on it so much, which is like the plot line of, and this is not the fault of this movie because they couldn't necessarily have predicted internet shopping, but the plot line of, oh, Santa's going to tell you where you can get it cheaper. There's no other way for you to get this information. Absolutely does not work in the internet age. Absolutely does not hold up. But we do have, in the role of Thelma Ritter, the mother who wanted to get the toy cheaper elsewhere, is Allison Janney, who I swear to God, because Allison Janney is a smart woman, is my understanding of her personality. I think like she was cast in this role originated by the great and amazing Thelma Ritter and thought, oh, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do my best Thelma Ritter impression. Because I have to believe that Allison Janney, if she wanted to do a real New York accent, could do that, but that's not what she's doing. She's doing like a 1930s vaudeville New York accent as the mom that wants the toy for her kid. Do you agree?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's weird too because the characters split into 2 different characters.
Right.
Like there's the mom who actually interacts with Santa, who's a different person who was also she was
that's
on The
Charlene
Sopranos.
Bucco from The Sopranos. It's Artie
Right.
Bucco's wife from The Sopranos.
But then there's the mom that comes up to Shellhammer later to say, I'm going to be a loyal, I'll tell you what, sir, I'm going to be a loyal Kohl's customer for the rest of my life because you told me to go to a different store. That's
See,
what
I'm gonna do it. See,
That's what I'm going to tell you, and that's Allison Janney,
Janney.
and she's great in it. And I like that was the moment where I thought she's the one I want to see play the mom.
Right.
I want to see Allison Janney play the mom in Miracle on 34th Street.
That's right.
But again, I'm probably not the person that should be making Miracle on 34th
yeah,
Street.
and then the other thing, there's just a lot of stuff that you have to suspend your disbelief so far that it just doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm questioning what Santa says, then clearly the movie has not activated my sense of wonder enough to ignore the stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, like, when Mara Wilson comes to see Santa, and Santa knows what she wants for Christmas, but says, oh, and you can ask your daddy, and points to Dylan McDermott, who is not her daddy, and they have to have the awkward conversation about how she doesn't know her daddy because her mom's a single mother. And we looked at each other and we're like, Oh, so he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
He knows when
if you've been bad or good, but he doesn't know when you don't have a daddy. Like, what an awkward thing for Santa to say.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. And then finally, just in terms of this scene, it does have the same plot point where the little girl comes to Santa and he speaks her language, and in this case the girl is deaf and he knows how to speak sign language, and she's just delighted that Santa knows sign language. But the way that, like, Richard Attenborough plays this scene and the way that the music kind of emphasizes this scene, the implication is, like, that the fact that she's deaf is, like, this tragedy that he's sad about. And it's supposed to be, like, joyful, like, that he speaks her language. Like, if the little girl speaking Dutch or Spanish isn't a tragedy, like, the fact that this girl is deaf and speaks ASL also should not be a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right? Like, it was genuinely kind of offensive.
It was, I mean, the thing I'll say about it is that while also being offensive, it also pulled on my heartstrings enough that I was in tears by the end of the scene.
That's fair enough.
Because I thought it was really well done. It's just the thing that it was doing was problematic in part.
Exactly.
Because it's not like he's heartbroken the entire time. He just has this moment where he looks at her and goes like, "Oh God, you poor wretch. You poor thing.
You poor thing. I pity you.
Richard
I pity you."
Richard Attenborough is a fucking good actor, and
Yeah.
you see that in his eyes. You see it twice in the scene. You see it when he first meets her and he finds out she's deaf, and then you see her at the end when she's leaving, and he says goodbye to her back, which is a really shitty thing to do.
But he didn't. But she doesn't require pity.
No, but then the entire time that he's actually talking to her, it's delightful.
It's delightful, and she's so cute, and also, like, I believe probably a deaf child just because she seems very fluent in sign language.
Yeah.
I could be totally wrong about that.
That scene is, like, weirdly the best and worst scene in this movie.
Yeah.
So do you mind if I feel like we can kind of circle back now?
Yeah. Let's skip back ahead.
So I want to talk about Boris and Natasha a little bit more,
Yeah.
and Evil Shoppers Express and the bad guy across the street, which, again, this movie doesn't need at all.
No.
And yet here we have it.
Yes, I wrote down, why does there have to be a villain? Like, this is not the kind of movie that requires a villain, but apparently we needed one. Or we needed three, because there's Evil Joss Ackland and there's Boris and Natasha.
Yeah. The thing I didn't like about this is that two things. One, it's not necessary. And two, it actually undermines Santa. Because again, he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good, but not if you're Boris and Natasha and an evil Russian and wants to take him down. There's so much stuff this Santa doesn't know. It undermines him being Santa. It actually makes him sound more like just a crazy guy who thinks he's Santa.
Yeah, because he's a crazy old man that lives in an old folks' home.
Yeah.
For some reason, on 114th Street. I don't know why that's emphasized so many times that he lives on 114th Street.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Why do they emphasize 34th Street so much in this movie?
I don't know, because Kohl's could be literally anywhere.
Well, Kohl's isn't where it's supposed to be because that's where Macy's is. Who didn't want to be involved. But anyway, I feel like the thing that bums me out is I feel like there's a way, and especially from the writer of Home Alone, there's a way that they could have handled these characters that I think would have made it a little more entertaining and less crazy that they're there, and also not undermine the character of Santa, which is make them completely ineffective. Make them Kevin and the Wet Bandits. Make them Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, where they're constantly trying to get after him and he's always one step ahead of them the entire time.
Yeah.
But that's not how they do it. Santa is completely ill-equipped to deal with these two idiots, and it undermines him completely.
Well, I agree with you. Let's talk about another character who's completely undermined. Let's talk about the female character being underwritten.
Sure, let's do that. Let's talk about Dory Walker, played by Elizabeth Perkins.
So Mara Wilson's mom is a high-powered businesswoman.
Yes.
I realized as we were watching the movie something very cute and a very subtle detail, which is amazing because this movie does not trade in subtlety. They both have the same hairdo. They have like a little hair flip, and it's really cute.
That's adorable.
So she just kind of is friendly with Dylan McDermott across the hall, and like they're out on Christmas Eve and they've taken a taxi and they've left Mara Wilson with Santa as her babysitter, and they're going downtown to see the tree and they're going to have dinner, and then he drops down on one knee and presents her with a Cartier engagement ring, and it's very important that the product placement is from Cartier. It's a Cartier diamond engagement ring.
You've upset the child.
This is so bad that our baby is crying. And before I come to why this is problematic, I'm going to say why I thought it was funny, which was that like they made this big deal about leaving the apartment and Santa's babysitting. And now we're going down to get in the taxi cab and we're driving away. And I was like, he lives across the hallway. Wouldn't it be funny if they just like got out of the taxi cab, doubled back around and snuck back into the building so they could go bone in his apartment? Like that's really what they want to do, clearly.
That was the thing I wanted in this movie. I wanted this to be the movie where they've actually been dating and they haven't told Mara Wilson yet.
No, they have not. Well, at one point,
I don't know what the Catholic League would say about that
At
one.
one point, I thought, like...
Sorry, the Catholic Legion of Decency.
Yeah, right. At one point, they had a conversation which made me think that, like, they had dated in the past and he was actually her father. I thought that was going to be the big reveal, but it was not. But anyway, they have this big fancy date and he presents her with this engagement ring and she rightly looks at him horrified and says, "What in the world would make you think that I wanted you to propose to me? I barely know you. Like, we haven't talked about this. This is not serious."
How many dates have they been on now?
This one.
Not even less than one.
Less than one full date. And he looks at her and says the most problematic, offensive, ridiculous, capital N, capital G, nice guy thing I've ever heard anyone say in a mainstream movie, never mind like a children's movie.
In a way that's presented...
unironically.
Yeah, totally unironically.
Which is, I've loved you for so long and I've never asked for anything in return. You bitch, essentially. And she's like, "I don't know what to tell you. How dare you do this to me? How dare you put me in this position?" Again, rightly so. And that's the source of the sort of tension and argument between them, which is she leaves him there and goes home. This is presented as a bad thing on her part because she should have accepted his advances when a man she barely knows proposes marriage to her.
I mean, that's Santa's view. Because Dylan McDermott goes and has a discussion with Santa.
And Santa's like, "Oh, well, she's damaged.
Yeah.
She's damaged."
He doesn't say that. He just says she's a sad person. You gotta give her time.
She's got all these walls up because she was hurt in the past. And, you just got to keep trying, Dylan McDermott. You just got to keep trying. So infuriating that Santa is giving this terrible advice to this man.
And then they get fucking married at the end.
Well, not only do they get married, like they get surprise married.
It's stupid.
They just show up at the church and suddenly they're married. And out comes the Cartier engagement ring again. And then again, in like a really explicit nod to sex in a children's movie, they both show up in bathrobes in poor little Mara Wilson's apartment in the morning. And I just looked at you and I was like, "Oh, they boned and this is now she's getting that little brother she wanted."
Well, and then there's proof of that later because that's the thing she wants. She doesn't just want a house. She wants a house and a daddy and a little brother.
Yes.
And they get, at the end of the movie, they get the house. It's very much like the original
And
scene.
they're already married, so that's her daddy now.
And she says, "Yeah, I also told Santa I wanted a little brother. Bye." And runs around the corner and Elizabeth Perkin puts her hands on her stomach, looks down at her, what I'm assuming is uterus, and then looks up at Dylan McDermott going like, "Oh my God." It's like, okay, A, they had sex.
Last night.
B, it likely was unprotected.
Gross.
That's what we know at this point.
Gross.
Because she is thinking in this moment,
"Oh my God.
I might be pregnant."
Gross.
It's a Christmas miracle on 34th Street.
Gross.
Do you know what we haven't even talked about?
Santa?
No, this movie. We haven't
The
talked
trial?
about we haven't talked about the trial.
I wrote nothing down about the trial. It's completely innocuous.
I have a couple things to say about the trial, and then I think we can end this.
Oh, I have one thing to say about the trial.
Please.
A reindeer can't be a witness.
It's so stupid. The whole trial, like John Hughes clearly was like, "I need to differentiate myself from the original one, so I got to write a whole different trial sequence, and I got to have it has to work differently and bring different witnesses, and we can't use any of the original dialogue from the original, anything that was delightful from the original. I got to do my own thing." None of it works at all.
No,
it's stupid.
so bad. So stupid.
Like, the prosecutor in this one takes it upon himself to disprove the existence of Santa, which is like, I have a call to action
and
right
he's
now.
super evil too. Like there's all these evil old white men in this movie.
Yeah, but I have a call to action right now. I have a question for who I'm sure is one of our listeners, but it's a legal eagle. The YouTube channel we told
Oh,
you about.
yes. The person we definitely have no affiliation with whatsoever.
I want them to do a video about the court scene in this movie.
For sure.
So badly, because it's so batshit.
And it's totally different from the original.
Yeah, and so many things happen. So in the original, there's that great scene where they call to the stand, where Dylan McDermott, that character, calls to the stand the prosecutor's son, who's this adorable little child, and he puts him on the stand, and he says, like, is there Santa? And he says, yes. And he says, who is Santa? And he goes, that guy there. And he says, how do you know? He says, because my daddy told me. And the prosecutor's like, my son, emotional coercion. And it's adorable. In this one, they call the wife to the stand to ask her, do your kids believe in Santa? If they do, who told them? And she says, my husband told them. I don't understand this at all because it removes anything funny about it.
Yeah, it's like not cute at all. It's just sort of, I guess, more realistic, but also dumb.
It's more okay, is it more realistic in the movie about how Santa's literally a real person and works at Macy's?
No, of course it's not, but I'm just saying, like, maybe that was the impetus.
That part is just bullshit. The entire thing. And then also, the way he wins at the end is not, the mail service thing is completely gone. The way he wins at the end, and this gets back to how this is the movie that weirdly has the most Jesus in it of any of them, is that he uses In God We Trust from a dollar bill. He brings that to the attention of the judge.
No, Mara Wilson brings it to the attention of the judge.
Well, no, he tells Mara Wilson to put it in the card.
Oh, gotcha.
That was, no, it was Dylan McDermott's plan the whole time.
Oh, I must have missed that part.
And he has her give it in a card to the judge, and there's a dollar bill, and In God We Trust is circled. And I honestly do not remember a single word the judge said because it's nonsense. But he essentially stands up in front of the whole courtroom and gives the defense's closing argument just off the cuff about how we're an institution. What was it? It's we're an institution by the people. Well, the people believe in God and they trust us to deliver justice.
And they like Santa, so there's Santa.
And they all believe. Oh, and also at this point, all of New York is crowded outside the courtroom because they've put the word out that Santa's on trial, and Santa's clearly the most famous man in the world.
Because he goes to every single house in the world. Every single one.
No, but
everyone.
Yeah, well, they do say that.
They do literally say that.
I know, but this Santa in this city is bigger than anyone. Like he could have stood up the way John Lennon did and said, "We're bigger than Jesus,"
and they'd be like, "Yeah,
yeah, we agree with that." It's just the weirdest. It's the weirdest way to end this movie. And there's this crowd outside, and it's totally unbelievable. And the judge says, as in every version, "I rule in favor of Santa. There is a Santa, and this man is him. But I'm gonna undo everything I just said potentially by saying
case dismissed."
It's so stupid. How many more minutes do you think we have before our baby has a total meltdown?
Like 4.5. Let's do this real quick. Do you want to do some quadrants?
Let's do some quadrants. So let's talk about 1955 TV movie from the 20th Century Fox, Hour. Do you think they cared about the original?
No.
No, they didn't. That was not the reason this movie existed. Do you think they did a good job?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Yes, they definitely did. 1973, do you think they cared about the original?
No.
I think they did.
I
think they did because I think by 1973 they were making it because like people love
classic.
It's a classic at this point. Did they do a good job?
Yes.
Yes, they did. It's so not good in so many different ways, but it is so much fun and so entertaining and free on YouTube right now.
Yep.
It's a ton of fun. 1994, do you think John Hughes, cared about the original? You don't think so?
No.
I think he did.
I don't think he did.
I think you think this was like a cash grab? You think John Hughes was like, I got to make another Christmas movie in New York?
Yes.
By the way, how good would it have been if it was actually a crossover and it was Home Alone 3, The Miracle on 34th Street, and Kevin McAllister is the kid? Because if you could see any kid sitting in front of the real Santa going, I know you're not really Santa. Well, that's literally what he did in the first one.
Yes, he did.
Like, I want that again. Do you think that's what it was? Do you think John Hughes was like, I already alluded to it in Home Alone. Now I got to do the whole thing.
Maybe.
Oh, and Richard Attenborough's blowing up because of that dinosaur movie. I'll get him to be in it.
You never know.
I think he cared.
Okay.
Is it successful?
No.
No.
It is not. It is poor.
And there the meltdown happens. And that brings us to the end of the
Ice
episode.
Age, the meltdown.
Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. And if you tweet about the show, don't forget to use the AdaptCast hashtag. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 2 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated.
I would just like to say,
yes,
to our child who may hear this one day when he's a little older, no, Calvin, there is no Santa Claus.
Oh no! Merry Christmas, everybody!
Ho, ho, ho.